Hello, Monique. So we survived the first month of 2023. And can you believe it? The first month is gone.
Morning, Theo. Yes, it's behind us. It's been an interesting month. The JSE has reached new heights. The rand is stronger despite what's happening with Eskom. What has caused this phenomenon, this almost a turn of events, despite a lot of bad news in the market?
Monique, that's an interesting question. Firstly, as you correctly said, we've had a very strong start to the year on the JSE. Markets have really run up hard. Then if you look at the capital market, the 10-year bond, it actually also had a very nice run in terms of the cost of borrowing from a South African government perspective. Late last year, early this year, that cost was way above 10%. It's now below that. That means the South African government can borrow at a lower interest rate, and that almost shows confidence in the government, although we don't feel it as citizens. Firstly, the JSE. We must remember that if you look at the top 3 stocks in the JSE, Richemont, Naspers, and Anglo-American, those 3 stocks alone is more than 35% of the JSE. Then you get to the other stocks, the gold miners, the platinum miners, and some of the other international companies, and you pretty quickly realize that a major portion of the JSE is not determined by South Africa, either price-wise or their business model. And that's part of why it's running. The other portion is we've had a strong run in the commodity stocks. And one must always be careful. Strong runs in commodity stocks has a way of turning negative. It's a volatile sector. And I think we need to keep that in mind. But yes, for investors, it's great. The equity portion of the portfolios had a very, very strong start. Bond market side as well. With bond yields coming down, that means the price of the bonds go up. So it was actually a great start to the year. I think the caution is, however, once you start with that kind of run, it cannot really sustain. It needs to get back to some kind of normality. But at this point, it's great. We've had a great run. And if you take that back to September, October, it even puts it into more context. Because for the for the last month of last year, we had a strong recovery, 13, 14%. And that trend is continuing, which is great news for investors. And I think we need to appreciate that we've had a strong year, but don't assume that this kind of strength will continue throughout the year. In the meantime, enjoy the strong year.
You mentioned earlier that a lot of faith has been lost in our government. So we had the 2 elective conferences now over the December-January period, and we have the SONA coming up. Where are we with the whole, I want to say, government debacle?
All right, let's first look at the ANC's elective conference. President Ramaphosa came through much stronger than he was in his previous term. He has a lot more support, not only in terms of the ANC, the branches, but in terms of the National Executive Committee. He's in a much, much better, stronger position. That was also the Free State conference that happened later in January. It was basically the Cyril faction that came to the fore. That allows him a lot more decision-making space. So he's in a much easier and better position to make the decisions he wants to make. If you, however, look at what is going to follow in February, as the month carries on, first you have the SONA, around about the 8th State of the Nation address. What we do know is that the EFF is going to disrupt that. So we'll probably have to look at the first hour of disruption, and hopefully then we'll get the State of the Nation address, and then later on the month we will have the budget, which will follow on from the principles of the State of the Nation and giving us a better idea of where the state finances are. And we are somewhere in the next few days, we will get a proper cabinet reshuffle. First of all, it's necessitated. People like our beloved Minister of Transport, Fakile Mbalule, has been moved to Letule House. He will be the Secretary General of the party, so there needs to be a new minister. And there's also challenges in terms of what do you do with Nkosazana Dlamini-Zuma, who opposed Cyril not only in Parliament, but opposed him in terms of the elective conference. And he needs to shuffle around. There's still people that's heavily implicated by the Zondo Commission that will probably need to find a way. But also our Deputy President, Didi Mabuza, did not make the top 80, the National Executive Committee. So the President will have to decide, will he make Paul Mashatile, the Deputy President of the ANC, also Deputy President of the country? That is the tradition. When that will happen, before or after SONA, I would expect before SONA, but then again, I'm not sure what the elements involved in that is. So that's what we're going to see. We are going to have a proper reshuffle of cabinet, including the Deputy President. SONA will be disrupted for the first hour. The EFF has said that. We'll also somewhere in this process get the Public Protector's report on the Pala question. So those things will play around. And obviously, one cannot but focus on Eskom as well. Hopefully, as time progresses, we will start to see, we'll get more and more clarity on the phases of load shedding, on the steps being taken. But I do think there's one massive point we need to appreciate. If you look at the ANC elective conference and you read through some of those documentation, the ANC realizes that they're in serious trouble come the 2024 election. The 2024 election is about 15 months away. Somewhere April, June 2024, the ANC realized if they have any chance of winning a majority in that election, they need to get this economy growing faster, and they need to come with dramatic implementation steps to get something going. Hopefully, if that realization is sunk in, if they take steps, us as the citizens of South Africa will have the benefit of a more focused policy changes, focusing on getting the economy going. And I think that's something that we can look forward to. That includes Eskom, all the state-owned entities, and even service delivery at the regional level. So that is the one element where I do think we mustn't underestimate. No political party that's been in government this long wants to lose power completely. Yes, they lose some of the provinces, but they still want to be in charge. That realization will focus the party and hopefully will lead them to action. But Monique, February is an important month, specifically the end of February. What should investors look at or focus on given that we're moving towards the end of February?
So the South African tax year runs from 1 March to the end of February every year. So before the end of February, we always encourage clients to make sure that you've contributed the maximum amount to your retirement annuity, that you've contributed the maximum amount to your tax-free investments, and that you've made use of that 40,000 Rand capital gains tax or capital gains exemption that you get if you wanted to sell an investment, or if you wanted to rebalance your investment, that you can still use that every tax advantage that is given, that you've used it to its maximum.
And that's where February becomes very important. So if you have questions on that, speak to your advisor, but make sure that the tax assistance that's being provided by Treasury, that you use that to the fullest of your benefit. Monique, in terms of our current house view for new money, local offshore, what is the house view?
So to take money offshore, if you're converting your rand to pounds or to dollars, we're looking at about 17 rand to the dollar or stronger than that, or 20 rand to the pound or stronger than that. And then we'll phase, depending on the amount that we're taking offshore, we'll phase it in over a 3 to 6 month period. And on the local side, it's also, we'll phase, your capital will be transferred to whichever product provider, and we'll also phase it in over a 3 to 6 month period, depending on the amount and depending on the clients.
Monique, thank you very much. And let's hope that the rest of the year we can also keep talking about the positives. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Theo.